Hate your job? At least you're not wiping the king's ass. In Tudor England, that was a real position. The groom of the stool. One man, one royal backside, daily. Others had it worse. Some stood in sewage up to their knees, digging through human waste for scraps of metal. Some lured leeches onto their bare skin, letting them suck until they bled, all for a few coins. One man ate food off corpses to absorb their sins. Another took daily beatings for a prince's mistakes. Why? Because the prince was too noble to be punished. History is full of jobs so revolting, so dangerous, and so humiliating, they make modern work look like luxury. This isn't just about bad jobs. This is about survival at its filthiest. These are the worst jobs in human history. Before we begin, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. It means a lot and really helps to support the channel. Let's begin. Job number 1, groom of the stool. The year is 1530. You're standing in a velvet-lined chamber, surrounded by the scent of rosewater and royal sweat. You're not a servant. You're not a slave. You are the groom of the stool, the closest man to the King of England, literally. Your job? Wipe his ass. Henry VIII trusted no one more than you. Each morning you helped him onto a padded portable toilet, often carried room to room in case His Majesty felt the urge, and when he was finished, you reached for the linen cloth and did the unthinkable. But this wasn't just about hygiene. The groom of the stool controlled access to the king during his most vulnerable moments. You heard every grumble, every groan, every secret muttered between bowel movements. You managed his schedule. You advised him on policy. You were, in the most twisted way possible, part of his inner circle. The job paid well. You had influence, status, even your own staff. But one wrong move, one poorly timed wipe, and you could be out of favor, or worse, out of a head. And if you're thinking this was some medieval anomaly, think again. The position lasted well into the 1700s. Imagine waking up every day, knowing that your success, your survival, and your social standing all depended on how well you handled royal shit. This wasn't a metaphor. It was your reality. Job number 2, leech collector. You're knee-deep in a bog. It's cold, it stinks, and the mud clings to your skin like rot. You're not here to fish. You're here to bleed, because your job is to collect leeches. And the fastest way to do that, let them latch onto your legs. One by one, the black, slimy parasites burrow into your flesh, their mouths slicing open your skin. You stand perfectly still as they feed, because movement makes them drop off. And each one that escapes is money lost. The longer they suck, the more valuable they become. So you wait, bleeding, dozens of them pulsing, wriggling, ballooning with your blood. Once they're fat enough, you pluck them off and drop them into a jar. Then you do it all over again, every day. Leeches were big business in the 18th and 19th centuries. Doctors believed they could cure everything. Headaches, infections, even mental illness, by draining blood. Hospitals needed thousands. Demand was insane, and supply meant pain. Leech collectors were mostly women and children. Poor, desperate, disposable. Many developed infections that never healed. Others collapsed from blood loss. Some simply disappeared into the swamp and never came back. There were no gloves, no tools, no protection. Just bare skin, exposed veins, and the constant threat of disease. The leeches weren't even the worst part. The water was crawling with bacteria. A single cut could rot your leg off. A single misstep could sink you into the muck. And for what? A few pennies, enough to survive another day if you were lucky. This wasn't medicine, this was body horror on repeat. Job number 3, Tosher. It's the dead of night in Victorian London. You lower yourself into a manhole with nothing but a flickering lantern and a long metal pole. The air is thick with rot. One wrong breath burns your throat. One wrong step, and you disappear beneath the surface. You're a tosher, a sewer scavenger. Your job is to wade through rivers of human waste, dead rats, and industrial runoff in search of anything worth selling. Scrap metal, Lost coins, bits of jewelry, even old bones, anything that might buy you food. The sewage is waist high, sometimes chest high. You move slowly, blindly, hands coated in slime. The rats are everywhere, hissing, clawing, swimming past your legs. Some are dead, most aren't. You're not alone down here. Other toshers prowl the tunnels too, and they're not always friendly. Competition means survival. Fights break out over a bent spoon, over garbage. You can't scream, no one would hear you, and no one would care. The dangers aren't just rats and rival scavengers. The methane could ignite at any moment. One spark, and the tunnel becomes a furnace. There's also disease, cholera, dysentery, typhus. Most toshers lost their teeth. Many lost their lives. But here's the twisted part. This job was illegal. If the police caught you, they'd arrest you for theft, because technically anything in the sewers belonged to the city, even if it killed you to find it. And yet the pay was sometimes better than factory work. Some toshers made a decent living, if they survived long enough. They became legends among the poor, sewer kings, shit-slicked royalty of the underworld. But there were no pensions, no promotions, no escape. You went in every night with the stink of death in your lungs, and you came out praying your skin wouldn't peel off by morning. This wasn't just a job. It was a descent into the bowels of humanity, every single night. Job number 4, Sin Eater. The corpse is still warm. The family sits silently, eyes averted. They've prepared a plate of food and placed it on the dead man's chest. Bread, salt, a few coins, and you're the sin eater. Your job is simple, eat the food. But this isn't a meal. This is a ritual, a transaction. Every bite you take is meant to absorb the sins of the dead, to cleanse their soul so they can pass into the afterlife. You chew in silence, slowly. The food is dry, tasteless, often left out for hours, but you finish every bite, no matter how cold or stale. Because if you leave a crumb, maybe a sin remains. And then their soul is damned. That's on you. The family won't thank you, they won't look at you. Some cross themselves as you leave. Others burn herbs to drive out whatever you've brought in with you. You are a walking vessel of filth, spiritual garbage disposal, tainted, cursed. No priest would touch you, no church would bury you. When you die, there will be no sin eater for you, no salvation, just a shallow grave and a legacy of quiet horror. And yet, in poor rural communities, you were essential. No one wanted the job, but everyone needed it. Without a sin eater, the dead risked eternal damnation, and for a few pennies, you took that weight on yourself. Again and again, no protection, no glory, just isolation, fear, and a stomach full of other people's guilt. Over time, you stopped flinching at the smell of death. You stopped caring who the dead were. Murderers, thieves, innocents, didn't matter. Their sins were yours now. And when you went home, you sat alone. No one visited. No one spoke your name. Because everyone believed the same thing. The more sins you ate, the less human you became. Job number 5, Resurrectionist. The grave is fresh, still soft, still sinking. You wait until the moon is high and the churchyard is quiet. Then you start digging, fast and quiet, like a rat in a coffin, because time is everything, and the longer you're out here, the closer you are to being caught. You're a resurrectionist, a body snatcher. Your job is to steal corpses, not for ransom, not for some twisted ritual. You're doing this for science. Medical schools in the 18th and 19th centuries were desperate for cadavers. Students needed bodies to dissect. Doctors needed them to practice surgeries. But the law allowed only a handful of executed criminals to be used, and it wasn't enough. So they turned to you. You weren't interested in jewelry or valuables, just the corpse. Strip it, wrap it, haul it out. A good, fresh body could fetch a month's wages. You didn't dig 6 feet down, that was a myth. You cut in at the head just deep enough to break the coffin lid. You used iron hooks, thick canvas, and silence. But it wasn't just dirt and wood standing in your way. Some families rigged coffins with traps, others sat in graveyards with shotguns. Richer ones used iron cages, mort safes, to keep you out. Still, you came, because you had to. And every night you risked your life. Grave robbing was a criminal offense. If caught, you'd be beaten, jailed, sometimes lynched on the spot. But you weren't technically stealing the person, just the body. And in the eyes of the law, that was a legal grey area. Until it wasn't. Some resurrectionists started skipping the digging altogether. They killed the poor, the homeless, the unwanted, and delivered them fresh. No digging, no mess. The line between thief and murderer blurred fast. You weren't just handling the dead. You were feeding a system that treated corpses like currency, and if you didn't care where they came from, there was always demand, always darkness, always another body to dig up before dawn. Job number 6, Fuller's Apprentice. You wake before sunrise. Not that it matters. The smell never lets you sleep. Today, like every day, you'll stand barefoot in a wooden vat filled with stale urine. Human urine, weeks old, reeking, warm. You're a fuller's apprentice. Your job is to clean and thicken raw wool cloth. And before soap, before machines, there was only one method that worked: piss and pressure. The cloth is soaked in buckets of urine collected from taverns, households, and street corners. People were paid to pee in jars. Then you get in, barefoot, and stomp, for hours. The ammonia in the urine breaks down the grease and oil in the wool. But it doesn't care about your skin. After a few weeks, your feet start to crack, then blister, then bleed. The smell sinks into your pores. It never leaves. Your clothes are stained. Your nails are yellow. You smell like a corpse that drinks beer. No one wants to sit near you. Even other workers avoid you. You're considered low even among the poor. And the worst part, you're not even the fuller. You're the apprentice, which means you're not paid in money. You're paid in experience and disease. Fulling houses were breeding grounds for infection. The air was thick with damp rot. The floors were slick with waste. You worked 12-hour shifts, no breaks, no gloves, just your body and the stink. And if you got too slow, there were always more desperate kids willing to piss-stomp their way into poverty. Still, the job had to be done. Clean wool was essential. Towns depended on it. And the rich never thought twice about the suffering that made their robes soft. You were invisible, unwashed, disposable. But you kept stomping, because fulling didn't just crush wool, it crushed people. Job number 7, rat catcher. You carry a sack, not full of tools, not food, just rats, alive, squirming, biting rats. You're a rat catcher. The lowest rung in a city, choking on disease. London, Paris, Berlin, doesn't matter. Rats are everywhere, in the walls, under floorboards, crawling through alleys, breeding in sewers, chewing through babies in cribs, spreading plague with every twitch of their tails, and it's your job to stop them, with your bare hands. You hunt at night, you move fast, you learn to grab them by the scruff before they sink their teeth into your fingers. You bleed anyway, you get infected, you keep working. Sometimes you use a ferret or a small dog to flush them out. Other times, you crawl into holes yourself. Rats attack in swarms. You scream. No one helps. You're expected to handle it. If you die, someone else takes your place. Some rat catchers sold their kills to science labs or taverns. Others kept them alive and staged fights, rat versus dog, rat versus man, for the amusement of drunks. It was blood sport, disguised as pest control. You might catch hundreds in a week, thousands in a good month. But there's always more. You can't win. They breed faster than you kill. You can burn a nest, drown a den, poison a burrow, and by morning, they're back. People avoided you in the street. They called you filthy, cursed. But when the Black Death came knocking, suddenly they needed you, desperately, too late. Your hands were raw, your lungs were poisoned, your body stank of rat blood and mold. But you kept working, because there was no other option. This wasn't pest control. This was trench warfare with tails. And you were on the losing side. Job number 8, whipping boy. You live in a palace, you eat fine meals, wear clean clothes, sleep in a warm bed, and every time the prince screws up, you get beaten for it. You're the whipping boy. Because the prince is royal, too sacred to be punished, too noble to feel pain, so when he lies, cheats, fails his lessons, or disrespects his tutor, you're dragged out and flogged in his place. The lash doesn't care that you did nothing wrong. The bruises don't fade faster just because you were innocent. And the prince, he just watches. Sometimes he laughs, sometimes he cries, but he never stops it. That's not allowed. Your suffering is supposed to teach him a lesson. Guilt by proximity. You're a living moral compass, bleeding so that he might grow a conscience. Some never did. The king believed this would strengthen your bond, that if the prince grew fond of you, he'd hate to see you hurt. Maybe he'd behave better, maybe. But often he didn't, and neither did the tutors, or the guards, or the court. Everyone agreed. A royal education required blood. Yours. You couldn't leave, you couldn't run, and if you did, they'd find another boy to take your place. Maybe younger, maybe weaker. That made it worse. Some whipping boys did grow up close to power. They became advisors, knights, even nobles. Others didn't survive childhood. Broken bones, infections, permanent scars. The price of teaching a spoiled prince how to behave. Your legacy? Forgotten. Your name? Erased. Your pain? Just another footnote in royal history, because you weren't there to be remembered. You were there to bleed. Job number 9, plague doctor. The streets are silent. The air stinks of rot. Bodies lie where they fell. Doors are marked with red crosses. No one answers when you knock, only screams or nothing at all. You are the plague doctor. You wear a long waxed cloak, gloves, boots, and the infamous beaked mask. Stuffed with herbs and spices, it's meant to protect you from the miasma, the bad air they believe spreads the disease. It doesn't. You're not a healer, not really. Most plague doctors aren't trained in medicine. You're here to record the dying, diagnose the doomed, and drain the sick. Sometimes with a scalpel, sometimes with leeches, sometimes with fire. None of it works. The Black Death kills in days. It swells the lymph nodes into black oozing boils. It rots you from the inside. And when the coughing starts, the deep bloody cough, it's already too late. You move from house to house, yard to yard, documenting death. Whole families gone, towns silent, and you keep working, not because you believe you'll survive, but because someone has to count the bodies. The job pays well. Dangerously well, sometimes double or triple a normal physician's rate. That's how bad it is. That's how desperate they are. But you're not respected. You're feared. People avoid you. Some throw stones. Others pray you pass by their door without stopping. Because if the plague doctor arrives, it means the end is already in sight. You sleep alone, eat alone, bury strangers, burn the infected, stitch up the dying, and so shut the mouths of the dead. The stench clings to you. The mask doesn't help. Nothing helps. You're not saving lives. You're just the last person people see before the world goes dark. Job number 10, executioner. You stand in the town square, axe in hand. The crowd is already gathered. Children sit on shoulders. Merchants sell snacks. It's a festival, and you're the main event. You're the executioner. They cheer when you arrive, not for who you are, but for what you're about to do. You don't get a name, you don't get a face, just a hood, just a job. You kill. Thieves, traitors, witches, anyone condemned by the state, and sometimes no one knows why. It doesn't matter. The sentence is death, and you're here to deliver it. Clean kills earn respect. One strike, swift, dignified, if such a thing exists. But mess it up, miss the mark? The crowd turns, they boo, they scream. Sometimes they throw things, sometimes they riot. The victim's family may curse you. The clergy may bless you. You don't listen to either. You're too busy sharpening your blade, praying it doesn't bounce. And after the execution, you're not done. You boil heads, mount them on spikes, tie bodies to wheels, burn what's left. Whatever the authorities want, you do it. Your tools are fire, steel, and silence. You live on the edge of town, away from everyone. Your house is passed down like a curse. People cross the street to avoid you. No one wants to shake your hand. You eat alone. You die alone. And yet, you're necessary. Without you, the justice system collapses. The monarchy looks weak. The law has no teeth. So they pay you, protect you, but they'll never respect you. Some executioners kept trophies, fingers, teeth, coins from the dead. Others drank themselves to sleep. The job broke them, slowly, quietly. And when your time comes, there's no ceremony, no honor, just a grave outside the cemetery walls, unmarked, forgotten, because no one wants to remember the man who held the axe, not even the ones who begged him to swing it. So the next time your boss sends a passive-aggressive email, just remember, at least you're not ankle-deep in sewage, or bleeding into a leech jar, or scrubbing royal buttocks for a living. The worst jobs in history weren't just disgusting, they were dangerous, dehumanizing, designed to break people slowly, and the horror wasn't always in the work itself. It was in how normal it became. Society depended on it, the rich demanded it, and someone, always someone, was desperate enough to say yes. Because when survival is the only goal, dignity becomes a luxury. Every job on this list existed. Real people lived them, breathed them, died doing them. And most were forgotten, erased from history like their suffering didn't matter. But now you know what they endured. And you'll never look at your paycheck the same way again. If this descent into humanity's filth fascinated you, subscribe. We've got plenty more grotesque truths buried just beneath the surface. Until next time, sleep tight.